Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Leaders Uncut. And today it is my great pleasure to have with us Jennifer Cho, who is the CEO of Creator Deck. Well, hello, Jennifer. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, wonderful. It's good to have you here on the show.
Thank you, Catherine.
So, Jennifer, tell us about what you're doing. You are a power woman, you're doing a lot of things, but I'd love to hear you speak about your background and what you're doing with Creator Deck and what's going on in your world.
Sure. Thank you for asking. And, I've had a very broad marketing career. If I think about my life, I've worked quite a bit on the agency side. I've had a few brand side roles. And I've worked at Weber Shandwick, so I've done the big agency thing. I've done kind of the small boutique agency, launching telecom, Metro PCS. And then on the brand side, I actually came up in the music industry. So
Mm,
marketing in the music industry. And then my last brand side role was kind of where I found my passion. So, working with women, building communities of women. So, I started as the CMO of The Wing, the Women's Social Club and Networking Space.
okay.
And that was my first CEO role. So, I was CEO of The Wing. We got acquired by a London-based company, and now that brings us to my new role. So I'm the CEO of Creator Deck. It's an influencer marketing agency, and I thought it was really interesting because, as you know, the world is all about influencers nowadays. But
Yes.
with marketing, not all influencers are the same, and we need to figure out a way to leverage influencers to drive influence in a way that makes sense for companies and their kind of spend and marketing, their ROI. Gotta love that.
Of course, it's a big thing. Yes, influencers are very powerful, and a lot of them have lots of followers. So, what type of influencers do you have, and are you focused on specific verticals?
Sure, yes. So we are not a talent agency. I always tell my brands that we are influencer agnostic. So we look for the right influencers for each campaign. I'll say up front that I do think that influencer marketing gets a bad name because of some of the mega influencers that people are used to, because you spend so much money to pay for a post. And
Yeah,
really, is that post like authentic? Is that really speaking to your audience? Really, you're just buying a celebrity, right? And you get all these amazing impressions and reach and everything else, but it's not really connected to your brand.
that's true.
So where my company specializes is what we call kind of the influencer pipeline.
Okay.
So who are the influencers that are smaller, like nano, micro? Because our hypothesis is that it's really hard to market to everyone nowadays,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
There's nothing that's going to resonate with kind of
Yeah.
so equally with a broad audience. But
Mhm.
if you use some of the smaller influencers, they have influence over their own audience, right?
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
might only be 1,000 people, but those 1,000 people actually know you, Catherine, or
Yes.
like engage with a piece of your content, right?
Mhm.
So the influencer marketing that we specialize in is kind of that like broad, narrow, and deep. So the
Mm.
you
I
know,
love that, and as you are so correct, because it's really hard when you use mass media to communicate a message that is relevant to your core audience. People cannot forget everybody has a core audience,
that's
and
right.
if you want to bring value to your core audience, you have to address their expectations and pain points, and that's what works. So I love your approach. It makes a lot of sense that you have to be very targeted,
Yes.
very focused, and this is what generates return on investment.
Exactly, exactly. What we've been adding to like finding the right kind of smaller creators that have authentic relationships with our audience is really kind of the mechanics of social media.
Mm.
So, I think the next layer that we add on at our agency is really social influence. So most people think it's great that you have an influencer just posting like a piece of content and they're talking to their audience. But what we really help our clients and our brands do is get involved in that conversation
Yeah, that
smaller creator, right? Like
I
it's like,
love
hey,
that.
Catherine, like I know, maybe you have a really direct connection to like your audience, but would it be great if L'Oreal entered that conversation,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, and they're talking to you like it's a friend. It kind of brings it down to like a very relatable level. So that's how
Mhm.
you community manage, right? It's like, hey, like, wow, L'Oreal liked my comment and like answered my question
Yeah,
about their product.
yeah.
That goes a long way. So
It
that's
does go along. It's more credible, first of all, because otherwise it seems so far out of reach that it's hard to believe.
right.
And now people need authentic, they need real connections because they've been suffering so much from not having those real connections, or from the fake fantasy world where everybody looks happy all the time, which is not working anymore. You know, people are just tired of it. So are you active in both B2B and B2C worlds?
Yes. I mean, we focus highly on B2C because the influencer is kind of like the direct to the consumer, but we
Uh-huh.
do quite a bit of B2B work as well. So we do work with a number of different brands to sell to kind of enterprise clients,
Okay.
but it's really the same approach, like a B2B is just a different definition of a persona to me.
Yes.
You're just kind of adjusting. It's a bigger persona, right? But
Mm-hmm.
kind of map it in the same way. Like, what are
Mm-hmm.
their goals? What are their interests? What are they curious about? Like, what will solve a problem for them? Whether it's
Mm-hmm.
a human or a company, I
Mm-hmm.
think you still have to take kind of this more like granular approach to it.
I agree, and maybe you use different channels too. So
Exactly.
but
Exactly.
so what's the process if a company is interested? They say, "Oh my God, I would love to work with Jennifer and use the power of influencers." What's the process?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we actually work with quite a few companies that have never done an influencer campaign.
Okay,
So it's
right,
always really interesting to kind of walk them through the
yeah,
journey a little bit. So we always start off with, of course, like a discovery call. We ask all the questions. We do our own research from a social audit perspective. Usually we look at, what type of content are they posting? Have they engaged with any influencer-like people in the past? How have they done it? So really just asking a lot of questions about like who are they trying to get to? Like what are the conversations that you want to be involved in? And then figuring out, like what the approach is. Like you usually do it like a science experiment. Like let's come up with like a test campaign, right? Like,
mm-hmm,
have a
mm-hmm,
hypothesis.
yeah,
We look at kind of the different metrics, right? Like let's do a test campaign. Let's do A/B testing. Let's see, do you work well with more like the micro approach, like the micro plus social, like I was talking about? Like,
yeah.
can we test that out with some different messaging? Do you have like a new product coming so we can kind of isolate the experiment a little bit to see a little bit of the spike? And then the great thing is that then we adjust and iterate for the next campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So it almost becomes like mini campaigns that learn from each other.
And I love that. That's so important because people assume they know.
Yes.
I hear so many of them. Oh, I know how we have to do it. I know what works, and
Yeah.
I always say, well, you don't. You assume you know. You don't really know. So doing an A/B campaign is so critical because it gives you, first of all, some additional information that would give you that would guide you to refine certain things you are doing to make it even more efficient. But it gives so much data, and that's so important to do it that way.
So much data. I think people look at influencer and they just kind of like think a celebrity, you just pay a celebrity, but
Uh,
real influencer marketing is actually very scientific. There's
mhm.
so much data, like you said. We're just looking at, originally most people look at like reach and then like engagement. Those are usually the two biggest. And then if you want to get closer to sales, we can layer in anything like an affiliate program or like a
True.
code or something. And now we have TikTok Shop, right? Or
Yeah.
we might not, but anyway, so
Yeah.
there is a direct conversion that you can look at. So that's why I think influencer marketing, if redefined, can be very powerful because it's actually closer to conversion than some of I come from the PR world. It's many steps to conversion, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
but
Many steps. Yes. And this is why, I mean, people have to understand it's an investment. It's not something that you're going to do for 2 weeks and forget about
oh,
it.
no, 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 no. You got to do the tests for 2 weeks across a year. And then you're
Exactly. But that's very important, I think, Jennifer, because a lot of companies don't understand that.
yes, that's right.
It's an investment. It's not a cost.
It is.
And you have to do it in the long run in order to see consistent results.
Right.
And that's very important to grasp so that it has to be part of their strategy.
That's right. That's right. You
Yeah.
should be a client.
Yes, that's right. I've been doing this for a long time. I've seen just about everything. That's why I know what to expect, and that's okay. I get it. I know.
Yep,
That's so
yep,
funny.
yep.
Oh
So,
my God, so funny. So this is great. I love what you're doing there. So tell me, I always ask my guests, I'm sure you've had lots of experiences in life and you had to overcome a lot of challenges and hurdles. I would love you, if you don't mind, to give us an example of something that you had to overcome that really taught you a lot about yourself, about your life, and gave you the fuel to maybe continue what you're doing or maybe change what you're doing with a lot more passion, efficiency, dedication, and faith?
sure, that's a great question, a very powerful question. Especially as a woman of color, I think the biggest lesson I learned over the past few years is to trust myself.
Mm, I love
I
that.
felt like the first role that I was a CMO, I was like doing a lot as a CMO. I was very challenged. And of course, we had a CEO and I was learning from her. And we always have our own kind of like opinions, right? Like we're like,
Mhm.
huh, like if it were me, maybe I would do something a little differently, like if I had different like role or whatever. But you kind of doubt yourself. You keep that person quiet.
Yeah.
Um, and when my mentor put me into my first CEO role, I felt like I wasn't ready. But in hindsight, no one's ever really going to be ready, right? Like you have to trust that you will take on this new role and apply pull all of your experiences together to be able to fill it out. And then just like the 2-week campaign for influencer marketing, if you continue to test and learn on your own, one day you'll wake up and be like, wow, like it's really great. It was
I
really impressive.
love it. It's so important what you just said
Mhm.
because I think we are our own worst enemy. We are our own best critique.
Mhm.
And it's easy to find reasons why not to do something.
Exactly.
But when I hear people do that, I always stop them and say, you need to look for reasons why you should do something.
That's right.
Because at the end of the day, nobody's perfect.
Oh,
But what matters is the drive, dedication, and passion for making a difference in this world, and to be curious because the curiosity, someone's curiosity is open himself or herself to learning.
that's
And
exactly.
when you have that mindset and that perspective, you don't start a position with the feeling that you know it all and you're going to tell everybody how to do things. You may know certain things, but you don't know it all. And I think that's a very important mindset that will
Definitely.
make you even more successful. Would you
Definitely.
agree?
I totally agree. I wish more people talked about this and really activated that, like genuinely,
Yeah.
because it makes sense for roles, but it also makes sense for the work that we talked about within influencer marketing.
Yeah.
I could easily just say, this is how other people do it and do it the same way,
Mm.
not winning,
Yeah.
right?
No.
Like the trust that if you can do kind of like be very organized, like have real data to measure yourself against, right?
Yeah.
But be curious and ask the questions no one else is asking. That's the only way
Yes.
to innovate and like move forward. So whether it's your role, whether it's how you do your role or approach like the work that you're doing,
Yeah.
I just think, especially with all of the data out there, the tools, education, and resource, I'm so excited to see the younger generation really just trust themselves and ask more questions, like be more curious.
Yeah.
Because, gosh, the future will be so interesting if they continue to do that, right?
I know, I loved it, how confident they are. Also, not be afraid of judgment. People
Exactly.
don't know. I
Exactly.
always used to be so afraid of what people would think. I don't care anymore. I mean, it's not that like I don't hear it. And
Right.
sometimes I can adjust it, but it's
Sure.
not going to change my path. And understanding that I think makes a big difference when you are active in society and believe in yourself. It's okay to be vulnerable,
Totally.
right? I think that's very important too.
Wonderful. Give yourself grace, right? Like
Yeah.
I wanted to be the perfect CEO on my first run. No one's a perfect anything ever,
No, no.
right? So give yourself grace. If you make mistakes, learn from them quickly. Don't make the same mistake. Super
I
simple.
I
Move
agree.
on.
I agree with you. These are such important principles to know.
Totally.
So, I have a question for you because with new technologies coming in, we have AI. We have all these tools that we can use. Is that changing the way you do business?
Oh my goodness, yes. That is, I hear so many conversations about how AI, is like scary, but like, we've been using AI in a different way. Like, I feel like if we can leverage all of the new technology that we have and improve kind of the almost like the productivity of like our human self, we can be
Mm-hmm.
bigger and better, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Prior to my coming to this agency, we didn't have an AI tool to help us even look for influencers. So
Mm-hmm.
we were beholden to the search parameters of existing tools, or of course, these like kind of monopolies like Meta, right? Like, so they don't
Yeah.
want to give you the data, you can't get it, right?
Yeah.
But you know what AI does? It gives you a workaround, right?
Yeah.
So we've been able to leverage AI to kind of figure out and ask questions around the things that we want to know that we can't get through kind of the traditional like means,
Right.
right?
Right.
Efficiency. It also allows my team, especially for like some of the entry level, very administrative tasks, it allows them to have a better work experience
Mm-hmm.
because they're not like wasting time on admin. Like that admin is being done through technology. So now even an entry level role has so many more kind of strategic opportunities than ever before, especially within like an agency, right? Like back in the day, like you would like just research stuff by like looking at books or Googling, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
now I can get like a quick, oh, I need a background on a client, put the brief into AI. No human has to spend hours or days on this. Like,
I, I love it. Plus, I think it leaves a lot of space for creativity, don't you think?
that's exactly what I mean. Because now you can look at the data and spend that time ideating and
Yeah.
figuring out like what is the important stuff here? What is interesting, right? AI's not going to tell you like what you think is interesting. But
Yeah.
now, as an entry level account executive at my
Yeah.
agency, back in the day, they'd be grunting it out,
Yeah.
putting together this like research report. But now their job is different.
Yeah.
Research is there. What do you think about this, young person?
Mhm. That's what I love. This is what I absolutely love. Technology. I mean, it may not be perfect, but that gives space and open space to innovation, to creativity, to really think differently too, because we have to nowadays. So it's very powerful.
It's so powerful. And, you know, I will say that, especially in influencer marketing, the unlock of strategy that I get from the young people that are actually like now participating in meetings at like an entry level has really been so insightful. Like,
Mm,
because it's like questions I would never know. Like, there are
mm,
trends that people are like talking about that I wouldn't understand. But a young person, now that they don't have to do the
yeah.
admin, can like look at it and think about it,
Yeah.
and then they can connect it to like the work. So I feel like I'm more ahead because I've activated my young people in a way that's much more productive and has them more engaged. Like they're learning faster.
Yeah.
So I'm getting more insight from them instead of kind of just like kind of the grunt work, right? Like that wasn't beneficial to anybody.
Yeah.
And I've also noticed that they're happier. Like we just did a
Oh,
survey.
of course, they are more valuable. Yeah.
Yeah. So one to one at another agency, they would be doing that research if
Yeah.
the agency is not using AI. So they're like, no, I'm staying here because I'm being so much more strategic and I'm learning so much more. And I feel like I'm seen because you're listening to my insight, not just taking my research and my report, right? So
Yeah, I love that. Plus, it's very important to listen to them. They may be young, but they carry different type of wisdom. They understand technology because they are born in it.
Yeah.
So they bring a different perspective that is very important to pay attention to and integrate that in your strategies because having opinions from a wide range of ages and experiences creates something that's very powerful, very dynamic.
That's exactly right. I've learned so much from these young people. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest, there's a lot of scopes that we would never have won without that like critical insight from a demographic that historically has not had a seat at the table, right? Like in the strategy meeting. So it's been a huge learning for me.
So important. Well, I'm so glad you're doing this. You're doing something very important here, Jennifer. I'm sure I'm going to leverage that in the future with you because it's giving me some ideas here from a strategic standpoint and also to gather data and consumer feedback because that too is critical, right? Especially when you launch a new product.
Exactly. So critical, right?
Yeah.
We're getting the info from like under the rocks, right? Like I never been able to get this kind of information before. And because the young people are on the forefront of like everything that's social and like digital, I feel like I have a head start compared to some of my competitor agencies that are not, like you said, listening to this critical demographic.
Yeah, no, I understand. Okay, great. Well, What would you have to say to my audience as parting words here? Especially now we are at the end of the year, we are getting into a new year. I think
Yeah.
we're going to see a lot of innovation coming up, a lot of changes.
Yeah.
So, what is that you would like to share that you have learned, or just something motivational, inspirational?
Yeah, I think this time, of year, and then specifically this year in the world that we're living in, I encourage everyone in 2025 to think bigger, to understand, where can you leverage some of the new technology, some of the new conversations that are happening to make yourself more you. So how
Mm,
can you take away some of the kind of administrative things, the things that are not actually fueling your brain, and
mhm,
spending more time, kind of like the young people, focusing on how are you enriching the human part of you. I think
mm.
it's always about new habits, new productivity, new approaches to the same work. And I think more than ever, there are just so many more creative solutions out there. So I really challenge everybody to think bigger, and how do you leverage technology to get to that bigger?
I love that big message. Think big. I always have in front of me, I have this sign. It says, have big dreams. You will grow into them. Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
And because you never know what can come back to you when you think big, you open doors.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And ever before, 2025, new
Uh,
horizon.
I love it. I love it. This is great. A great way to finish this conversation with you. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I really appreciate your time today. Everyone, please share Jennifer's story. I hope I'm sure you enjoyed it. And if you need any influencer marketing, talk to her, because
Right.
that can make a big difference in your campaigns, in your strategy, give you data that you would not have otherwise. So it's really important to align yourself with people like that have been doing this for a long time, just like her. She understands marketing and branding, and she understands how to generate consumer messaging that is going to be powerful. So talk to her and share this with your network, because you never know what can come out of this. We're here to share the good, right? Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you again, Jennifer. And I'm going to wish everyone a happy holiday, because it's now here, and we will start the new year with our big dreams.
That's right. Big dreams. Thank you so much, Catherine. I really enjoyed the conversation today.
Likewise, take care. Bye bye.
Thank you.